Okay, so today we are going to be working on 1.2 notes. These are just more basic terms, adding to what we talked about in section 1. So our goal today, make sure we get this written down, is to define basic terms in geometry. Okay, and that first term that we're going to be talking about is a segment. All right, so a segment is going to be, it's a part of a line. Okay, and that's kind of our theme today. We're going to be talking about a lot of what we're going to be talking about today are types of lines and lines, it's all about lines. So points, lines, planes, that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about in this first unit. And today we're really focusing on the lines portion. So a segment is part of a line. It's going to have two endpoints and it's going to include all the points that are between the two endpoints. So let me give you an example of what this is going to look like. This here would be an example of a segment. Now, this is actually part of a line because I'm just going to draw it in dash so that way we know we're not talking about that portion of it. But the orange is going to be, it's going to be that segment. So we would put two endpoints here, maybe call one of them point A, one of them would be point B. And the way that we would name this is very similar to how we name a line. Now, you may have noticed I was very picky and kept saying make sure you put the line with the arrows above it, because if it doesn't have the arrows, we're actually talking about the segment that is between points A and B. If you were to name this as segment BA, that is completely fine too. It does not matter which letter comes first, A or B, B or A. It doesn't matter, okay? So that is talking about that orange segment in between A and B. Now, biggest thing I can say here is I'll say how many points are on this segment, and people will tell me 2. 2 are written in. However, I could go and add in as many points as I want. Here could be point C, I could do D, I could do Z, I could do whatever I wanted. There are so many points in between A and B, even more than what our 26 letters can say. There are an infinite number of points in between A and B. Okay. Array is going to be another part of a line. That one's going to look like this. Okay, so that's going to be a ray. Now, again, I'm going to draw in what the rest of the line would be, because you know that there does exist a line that this is going through, and that yellow kind of shows you where that line is. Let me put some points on this, because rays can be actually a little bit more challenging to name. So put G there, D, E, F. Okay, so I think that should be enough on there. So when we go to name this ray, it's a good idea. So before, when we were doing segments, we had to put the segment over it. We did the lines, we did the line over it. So when we do a ray, we're going to start by putting the ray over it. Okay, now I recommend to draw the ray in first, because this is very picky on how you name this. So you actually have to look and say, the endpoint of my ray is where? It is on D. So D has to come first here. Okay. Now, after you have that D part, it's going, the green, the ray is going in what direction? It is going towards E. It's going towards F. If there were any other points on here, okay, they would also be going towards those other points. However, E and F are our choices here. It does not matter now which one you choose. You could name this DE, or you could name this ray DF. But I would, like I said, recommend writing out the ray first, because you want to make sure the endpoint is where? It's at D. So that's the very picky part. If you named this ED, this would not work, okay? And the ray, you always draw it from left to right when you're writing it like this. Okay, so you'd always draw the ray first, and then go ahead and fill in that endpoint, and then which way does it go towards. All right, opposite rays. Now this is going to look like I'm going to do two different colors here. Kind of like this. Okay. So these, the red, I should have done those colors in red and green. There we go. Okay, so the red ray and the green ray are going to be opposite rays. The thing here are they are two collinear rays, meaning that they lie on the same line, and then they share an endpoint. So that blue point, I haven't given it a name yet. Let's call it Y. Y is the endpoint to both rays, okay? And then we will also add in another couple points. So maybe this is X over here and Z over here, okay? So they form a line, so it looks like a line, but it's actually two opposite rays is what they are called. So we're going to name them. So the first ray and the second ray. So when we're talking about the green ray, I'll color coordinate these for you. The end point is Y, and it's going towards the green ray is going towards Z. Okay, so ray Y, Z, and ray, we're talking about the red ray. Oops. Let's use the pointer. The red ray goes, the end point's going to be Y. And then this one goes towards X. Okay, so that would be our those two rays are opposite rays. Ray YZ and ray YX are opposite rays. All right, parallel lines. Parallel lines, you guys have probably heard about these before. The biggest thing and the part of the definition that you probably have never talked about is the fact that parallel lines have to be coplanar. And that was a term that we talked about where they have to be on the same plane, okay? The part that you guys probably are already familiar with in this definition is that they never intersect. Okay, so these lines have to be coplanar and they never intersect. All right. So let me put a couple points on this drawing here that we can talk about. So there's A, B, C, D, and that should be enough. So if I look at this top plane is probably the easier of the 6 sides to see. Okay, so if I'm looking at that top plane, I can say that lines AB and lines CD are parallel. Remember, those are just portions. Those are segments. We're not talking about the segments here. We're talking about lines. Those lines will extend forever, and those lines are going to be parallel. So line AB and line DC are parallel. Okay, because they are on the same plane, they are both part of that yellow plane, and they are never going to intersect. Okay, skew lines. Now, this is a term that is probably new to you, and it's very similar to parallel lines because these lines can never intersect. Okay, but there is a difference in their definition. These ones are non-coplanar. Okay, so they are not going to be on the same plane. Okay, meaning they don't necessarily have to go in the same directions. You'll notice that these appear to be going in the same direction. So let me draw in an example so you guys can kind of see it. And then what we'll do is we will actually write in the points, and we'll talk about if I'm looking at this right there, that line right there. And this up and down line, vertical line in the back, okay? On paper, these look like they might intersect. But if this was a 3D figure, are those lines actually touching? And they're not, because this line here is in front of this line with this distance here. That gray distance is in between those two lines. So these two lines are not intersecting right here. Okay? So this is not intersecting. All right. And then we'll write in the points here. So we'll say this is A, B, C, D. We'll call that point E. All right. So we have here, for our example, is that line AD, that front line, is skew to line CE. Okay. Those are non-coplanar, and they never intersect. They are not on the same plane. Okay. There is also parallel planes. Parallel planes are just planes that never intersect. There's nothing about coplanar or non-coplanar in this definition because we're talking about planes themselves. So, for example, we can just draw this in. This top plane will be parallel to the bottom plane. Even if these planes were to extend forever in all directions, they would never intersect. Okay. There's also one more thing I'm going to add to this. It's that you can also have a line and a plane that are parallel. And this would be, for an example, if I was talking about this line right here, that line would still be parallel with that bottom plane, okay? So, and that's because this line lies in that plane that is parallel to this plane. So you can have a line that's parallel with a plane as well. So, again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. We can set up a Zoom or whatever you need. I am here to support you. So I hope that you all have a wonderful day.